Black Mesa isn't the famous one. This Black Mesa sits in western Colorado, a broken ridge of dark volcanic rock stretching above a valley that never fully wakes up. The nearest town is Red Hollow, population 612 on paper, maybe 400 in winter. One gas station, a school that closes when the roads freeze, a radio tower older than most of the people who still live there. I was the county night dispatcher. From 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., I sat alone in a concrete building beside the sheriff's office, listening to the valley breathe through static. Highway calls, drunk drivers, cattle loose on Route 17. The job wasn't dangerous. It was quiet work, the kind of quiet that presses on your ears. Most nights, the loudest thing in the room was the clock. You learn the rhythms of a place like that. The way the wind drags along the mesa after midnight. The way truckers slow at the bend near mile marker 42 because the guardrail looks weaker than it is. The exact hour when the town's power grid dips for a second, 2:13 a.m., every single night. I used to joke that if something truly strange ever happened, I'd notice. The first night felt wrong before anything happened. The air pressure changed. That's the only way I can describe it. Around 1:40 a.m., the building seemed to seal itself. My ears popped. The hum of the fluorescent lights flattened, like someone had turned the world down by half a degree. Outside, the wind stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. I stepped out onto the loading dock behind the station. The valley should have been alive with the usual winter sounds, distant trucks, dogs, the rustle of dead grass. Instead, there was a heavy silence, the kind that makes your heartbeat sound intrusive. The sky was clear. No storms. No clouds. No reason for the air to feel compressed. I remember thinking the silence had weight. Then the radio crackled back to life, and the moment passed. A stranded motorist near the state line. Routine. I went back inside and let the building swallow me again. But I kept listening to the quiet, and it kept listening back. The first call came at 2:17 a.m. A rancher named Daniel Kessler, voice shaking in a way I'd never heard from him before. "There's something over the pasture," he said. "It's not a plane." I pulled up the radar feed. Nothing unusual. No transponders, no scheduled flights. The nearest aircraft was 80 miles south. "What do you see?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. "It's not moving right." The line filled with a low hum. Not static. A tone. Deep and steady. It vibrated through the headset and into my jaw. Then the call dropped. I tried calling back. No signal. A minute later, 3 more lines lit up at once. Different voices. Same report. A light over the valley. Too still to be a helicopter. Too close to be a star. One woman said her dogs were howling. Another man said his cattle were running in circles, smashing through fence wire. Every caller mentioned the sound. That same low hum, bleeding into their voices. I stepped outside again. The silence was thicker now. And the sky. At first I thought it was empty. Then I saw the absence. A section of stars had vanished. Not blocked by cloud. Just erased. A clean circular hole punched into the night, directly above Black Mesa. Around its edges, the remaining stars bent subtly, like light was sliding around something I couldn't see. My stomach turned cold. The hum wasn't loud out there. It was inside my head. A pressure behind the eyes. The kind you feel when an elevator drops too fast. My watch read 2:21 a.m. I stood there for what felt like seconds. When I checked again, it was 2:49. I don't remember the missing time. Inside, the dispatch console had recorded nothing for those 28 minutes. No calls. No noise. Just a flat line of silence in the audio log. In a town that never truly stops talking. At 3:02 a.m., every streetlight in Red Hollow went out at once. The valley disappeared, and the hum grew louder. The blackout lasted 9 minutes. Backup generators kicked in at the station, but the radio network didn't return cleanly. Voices came through stretched and metallic, like they were being dragged across distance. People were outside now. The lines flooded with callers describing the same thing. A shape above the mesa. blotting out the stars, bleeding a faint gray glow that didn't illuminate anything. It just existed. A stain in the sky. Deputy Morales radioed from Highway 17. "I'm looking at it," he said. His voice sounded thin. It's too big." "How big?" I asked. A long pause. "It's not supposed to be that big." The feed cut to static. Then screaming. Not from Morales. From somewhere in the background. A sound so raw it didn't register as human at first. The transmission ended mid-breath. I dispatched units, but no one answered. Every patrol car's GPS froze in place on my screen. Tiny icons locked on the highway like insects trapped in amber. The temperature inside the station dropped sharply. My breath fogged. Frost crept across the inside of the windows, forming delicate branching patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the hum. I felt it in my chest. Each pulse squeezed the air from my lungs. The phone rang again. A child's voice this time, whispering. "It's looking at us." "Who is this?" I asked. No response. "Where are your parents?" Silence. Then, "It knows we see it." The line went dead. I realized I was gripping the desk so hard my hands had gone numb. Outside, the gray glow intensified. Shadows in the valley stretched in the wrong directions, sliding sideways instead of away from their sources. The geometry of the place felt misaligned, like the world had shifted half an inch off its axis. My nose filled with a metallic smell. Blood. I touched my upper lip. My fingers came away red. The hum rose to a pitch just below hearing, a vibration that rattled my teeth. And then the shape moved. Not across the sky. Closer. It descended without crossing the distance between us. One moment it was above the mesa. The next it was above the town. There was no motion in between. No travel. Just a rearrangement of position that my eyes refused to track. Looking at it felt like staring at a word I couldn't pronounce. The gray glow thickened into something like fog. It poured down the streets, swallowing buildings in a soft, soundless flood. The station windows vanished behind it. I was alone in a room of blank glass. The hum stopped. The silence that replaced it was worse. I could hear my blood moving. A shape pressed against the outside of the fog. A bulge, as if something immense was leaning close, testing the surface. The glass bowed inward. Hairline cracks spidered across it, but no sound came from the fractures. I couldn't move. Every muscle locked. The pressure in the room mounted until my vision sparkled at the edges. The bulge in the fog sharpened, resolving into angles that hurt to look at. Not curves, not straight lines. Something in between, sliding constantly from one geometry to another. A shadow fell over me. Not from above, from inside my own head. I felt observed in a way that bypassed sight. A direct awareness, cold and clinical. It sifted through me. Memories surfaced without my consent. Childhood rooms, old arguments, the face of my mother, and dissolved under that attention like paper and acid. I tried to scream. No air came out. The shape leaned closer. The cracks in the glass widened. Through them I saw depth. Not the parking lot. Not the street. A darkness that stretched back farther than the valley, farther than the horizon. Something moved in that darkness. A suggestion of scale that made my mind recoil. Then the pressure vanished. I collapsed to the floor, lungs convulsing. The fog thinned. The glass repaired itself in a silent ripple, fractures knitting shut like skin. The hum returned for a single, deafening pulse. And the sky was empty. Power came back with a surge that tripped every alarm in the building. My watch read 5:12 a.m. Sunrise. The valley looked untouched. But the radio was chaos. Calls stacked on top of each other. Reports of missing people. Entire households gone. Doors open. Cars running. Breakfast half-cooked on stoves. Deputy Morales's cruiser was found idling on Highway 17. The driver's door hung open. The seat was wet with dew. No sign of him. Livestock lay scattered across fields. Not dead, just still. Cattle stood frozen in place, eyes wide, refusing to move even when prodded. Birds littered the ground as if they'd fallen mid-flight. By mid-morning, Unmarked vehicles rolled into Red Hollow. Men and women in plain clothes. No insignia, no introductions. They moved with practiced efficiency, collecting recordings, confiscating phones, dismantling the radio equipment piece by piece. One of them handed me a form stating the blackout had been caused by a transformer failure. I signed it without reading. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. They asked me what I remembered. I told them about the missing time, the fog, the shape. The woman across the table didn't write any of it down. When I finished, she slid a different statement toward me, already typed. It described a routine power outage and a series of false emergency calls triggered by panic. "This is the official record," she said. Her voice was gentle. Final. Outside, helicopters circled the mesa in tight, silent loops. No news crews were allowed past the highway checkpoint. By evening, the town's internet was restored with a banner message blaming a regional infrastructure glitch. 16 people never came home. Their names weren't reported outside the county. By the end of the week, Red Hollow returned to its rhythms. The gas station reopened. The school bus ran on schedule. The streetlights dipped at 2:13 a.m., just like always. But the silence at night was different. Heavier. Watching. I left the job 3 months later. Sleep became impossible. Every time the room went quiet, I felt the pressure building again, that sense of something leaning close from a distance I couldn't measure. The official investigation concluded there had been no investigation. Records from that night are incomplete. Audio logs corrupted. GPS data lost. The missing persons cases remain open, categorized as voluntary disappearances despite the absence of evidence they ever chose to leave. Sometimes I drive back to the edge of the valley. I park where I can see Black Mesa against the sky. The stars above it look thinner, as if the darkness there is deeper than it should be. Last winter, my watch stopped at 2:21 a.m. The battery was new. It never started again. I keep it in a drawer, frozen on that time. Proof of something I can't prove. A reminder that the world can open without warning, just wide enough for something vast to look in. And once it has seen you, the silence never sounds empty again.